unfortunately, you retired in 2000, a year too early, mate, because we saw that the Lions going on to win those 3 premierships in 2001, 2 and 3. Any regrets?
None at all.
This is Legends with Bevo. Thanks to Anytime Fitness Glenelg, Renelec Electrical Services, Tiger Tennis, and SMS Gas Installations.
Richard Champion, great to have you on Legends with Bevo for a chat. Now, you played 183 games for the Brisbane Lions and the Bears, and also you played 79 games for the Woodville Warriors back in the day. A Kadina boy growing up. Talk to us through your footy journey as a junior and how you got to play for Woodville.
Hello, Bevo. First of all, thanks very much for having us on the show, mate. Really appreciate it. I do apologise for the backdrop here. I'm coming live from Cell Block C. Down here, I got 6 months for still frosting my hair at the age of 53. Brutal path pretty quickly, but anyway, there you go. Mate, my junior career, yes, I just played juniors in Kadina for up until about sort of 15 years of age, and I was going to high school at the time. And Jeff Baines, a former South Adelaide player, was a teacher at the school, and I was still available for senior Colts. And we were just having some kicks out on the oval one day, and he sort of came and said, "Why don't you come out and sort of train with the seniors for this week? We're starting the season in a couple of weeks." And I said, "Oh, mate, I'll be going to the senior Colts training." And he said, "No, come out to the senior." And I just didn't feel comfortable with that. I was just a kid. I was 15 and started training with these men. And all of a sudden, I was thrust into the full forward role in the A grade side, and kicked 9 on debut. And I thought, hey, maybe I can actually mix it with these guys. So that's so my junior playing was just through mini league, junior Colts, senior Colts, and then started playing sort of senior footy at a pretty young age, and just went on from there.
And you played under some pretty big name coaches, Russell Ebert, Malcolm Blight, 2 of the biggest South Australian names around Australian footy terms, really. Yeah,
indeed. And then almost Neil Baum as well, who I went to, I think, 1 or 2 pre-season trainings just before I was drafted. Well, after I was drafted to the Bears, and just pre-season, I just went and joined them, and he sort of said, "Yeah, come and have a run with us before you head up." So, but yeah, two big names for sure. And Malcolm Blight was my idol sort of growing up. So I obviously played for Woodville, where he sort of captain coached there for a while, and then Russ Ebert for the couple of years before I left. So it's just synonymous with footy in South Australia. So 2 massive icons.
Blighty was famous for dishing out a big spray, and we all know about those over the years. What was Russ like, though? Was he a bit more calm, or did he like dishing out a spray as well?
Russ was pretty calm. His persona is very calming, and I think Russ doesn't have to say too many words to actually get his point across. And I think that's what I learned with my couple of years under him. You sort of knew where you stood just by his demeanour. He didn't have to yell. He didn't have to make us do training drills at 3/4 time during a game like Blighty did when we weren't getting the job done. That was quite embarrassing. Oh my God, I could seriously write a book on what happened when Blighty was coaching us. There was weird stuff going on, but that's Blighty. But he got the results, and he went to Geelong obviously and got some great results there. Just couldn't quite get the job done as far as a grand final win, but took them to a few. Mate, they were interesting times. But hey, as a young country boy growing up, that's all you knew. And then, of course, I went to the Bears, and under Robert Walls there, and Woolsey had his own way of doing things too, and we had some weird stuff happen there.
Do you want to share a few stories?
Well, in fact, I think it's been well documented already what happened with the whole boxing thing. If you look up a video called "The Passion to Play," one of my mates who unfortunately got killed in a car accident, Rob Dixon, actually produced this video. It's called "The Passion to Play." Have a look at it, and he reenacted this scene that we did at training one night when a couple of players were disrespecting the opportunity that they had at the Bears at the time and going out in Surfers Paradise, during the week and before games and all this sort of stuff. And he made them take on some 6 boys, some big boys too. And Philip Walsh was one of them actually. And and they basically got their heads punched in by their teammates training. Yep.
All right, that's a tough way of disciplining someone, isn't it?
There were two boys from Perth. So Shane Scrample, he was the one who was made sort of take on 6 guys for a minute each. And the other guy, David Ogg, was made run 40 laps of Carrara while this was happening. I don't think he's finished them yet, and that was like 25 years ago. It's about sort of 550 metres in circumference, I think. So, mate, but this is all I knew. This was in my first year when I moved there. I said, "Is this AFL? Is this what actually happens there?" This didn't happen at Woodville. Well, sort of with Blighty, but surely this isn't the norm. And as it turned out later on down the track, it all come out. And he got in a bit of trouble for it, or at least was questioned about some of his methods.
And Blighty, I heard a story back in the day from an ex-player from Woodville, actually, Rocky Butterworth. He told me a story about Blighty actually getting the magnets and throwing them in the mud or something back in the day. Did you come across that as well?
I didn't get the magnets in the mud, but what we did get was one night at training, we sort of gathered in the change rooms, and then the coaches would tell us, right, I head on out and do a warm up and whatever. We got smashed this one week, and then the Monday night come around and we were sort of gathered just waiting. He said, right, get out and start running laps. We started doing that, and he brought us in. He came out with Johnny Reid at the time. He said, right, I want you to keep running laps in single file. And he said, we didn't go hard at the ball on the weekend. So what I want you to do, as I call out your name while you're running, I'm going to roll the ball out. Reedy sort of rolled the ball at us this way, and Blighty was coming at us at 100 mile this way. And just as you were bending down to pick up the footy, Blighty come in and just smashed you with a hip to every player. We're talking a list of 40 odd players. And he called out everyone's name while we kept running laps in a single file, called out your name, and you dare grimace when you go to pick up the ball and he's coming and smashing you from the side, you're out. So, mate, that was just one of many that I could tell you. You learn pretty quickly that he meant business. And his methodology, again, was a little, I guess, old school or skewed towards that physical side of things, but mate, it's all part of the journey, right?
Exactly. I caught quite a few sprays playing our local footy back in the day, so I know all about it. Not quite a coach trying to take me out or anything like that, but and hey, Chance, were you close to playing for the Crows? Because obviously you mentioned Kadina boy growing up, and you went to the Brisbane Bears. The Crows came in back in 1991. Were you close to playing for Adelaide?
Well, look, as it turned out, I probably could have, but just with the whole politics that went on with the drafting at the time and where clubs were with players on their lists, etc., I was never given that opportunity. So when the Bears first come into formation, they had quite a few South Australians on their list who never actually went to the club. And when the Crows come into play, the Crows had a choice of 2 players on every team's list at the time, and both the Jarman boys were on that list at the time, along with Gary McIntosh and myself. So the Crows naturally chose the 2 Jarman boys, absolute superstars, and the Crows knew as well that Darren Jarman wanted to play for Hawthorn. He didn't want to play for the Crows. So the Bears were aware of this as well. So there were some dealings done sort of behind closed doors, and they said, right, okay, well, we'll tell everyone that we'll secure the 2 Jarman boys, but, we won't tell until Champion signs with us because we don't want to lose all 3 of them. So there were some dealings done. And, mate, look, I hold no grudges. I've really enjoyed my time up here, and clearly I've stayed up here in Queensland after my career. So that's what transpired. But it was a bit of a shock when, the Shane O'Sullivan and Andrew Ireland come to my place and we signed the contract to say, yep, well, you really had no choice because both the Jarman boys are going to play for the Crows. Yep, okay, I understand that, guys. And then on the 6 o'clock news that night, only about 5 hours later, there was the news broke that Darren Jarman had signed with Hawthorn. I've gone, what? And then I get the phone call from Shane O'Sullivan from the Bears just saying, sorry, mate, this is business. This is what we had to do. We're sorry, but we couldn't lose all 3 of you. I hope you understand. I said, yeah, it's cool. I'm looking forward to the challenge. So
at least it's a lot more sunny up in Brisbane as well, so not a bad thing.
I've never looked back. It's all good.
And let's go back to your footy career chance, because back in 1990 is the Foundation Cup Grand Final between yourselves, Woodville and the Bays, and it was one of the biggest melees in history that came about because there was an incident between you and, back in the day, Scotty Salisbury, one of the snipers from the SANFL, who's well known for taking people out. Talk to us through the incident, or what you remember of it anyway.
Yeah, well, I don't think I was knocked out per se, but I think it was sort of late in the third quarter or thereabouts, or maybe early in the last. I don't actually remember. I can't remember many of my footy games, to be honest. But yeah, I was about to sort of head up to mark a footy, and last minute I just saw someone sort of come at me from the front, and looking at the video afterwards, Scotty sort of raised his elbow and sort of took me out of the play without looking at the footy. And I think KG and Kimbo were sort of commentating at the time, I think, and they described it as quite a sort of vicious and pretty poor execution of an elbow to the scone.
It's the grandstand wing. Rouvray sets himself. Champion was taken out of it. Now I'm not sure who hit him, but that was pretty untidy.
Right behind the pack. Watch Champion going down. There he is. Right in the middle of your screen. Now you saw it as clear as I did.
Yeah, mate, I got cut pretty badly, and Scotty ended up getting 7 weeks, I think, suspension for that. I think we lost the game, but there was this was bigger than the game, and I think he pleaded that he had been concussed earlier in the game and couldn't recall what had happened and whatever. That's the story he ran with, and you have to accept that. So you do your best to get out of sort of a bit of trouble from time to time, but that's, it's all part of the footy, and it's in the archives now to look back on and see what transpired. But maybe that inspired everyone to do better, and for rules to be changed and all this sort of stuff. And I don't hold any grudges. What happens out on the footy field happens, and it's all good. There was a scar there for quite some time, but it's disappeared now. So no, it's all good. You forget about these things until until a journo brings it up, until someone like yourself sort of chats about it. But now, of course, you can look it up on YouTube and all this sort of stuff, and quite often, someone brings it up for whatever reason, or it's an anniversary of something, and then you get messages saying, "Oh my God, I had no idea that this," and so it's there forever, right? You sort of never forget about it because it just keeps coming up, and it's all good.
Like you said, it's all part of footy, and at least you're okay now. That's the most important thing. So, yeah. And 189 games for...
I really had no long-term effects.
189 games for the Bears and the Lions. And unfortunately, you retired in 2000, a year too early, mate, because we saw that the Lions going on to win those 3 premierships in 2001, 2 and 3. Any regrets?
None at all. Just give me a moment. Just 1 year, hey? I mean, if we were to look at everything in hindsight, you'd think, maybe I'd play on for another year. But, who is to know? Like, Leith Matthews sort of come on board after, Robert Walls, and then John Northey, and then Roger Merritt for a half a season. And, Lee coming on board, and he sort of got us sort of off the bottom, and we were working towards this. And then in my last year in 2000, my form sort of dropped away a little bit, and I was 32, and, that sort of tends to start to happen from time to time, and you start to sort of doubt yourself a little bit. But, you knew we were heading places, but who was to know what was going to happen that next year? And anyway, I remember getting literally a tap on the shoulder as we were heading out of the Gabba to head down to Cooperoo to do some pre-season early in the week training session. And then we were coming back. We were only sort of 4 weeks off finishing that season, I think. And he just sort of said, "Look, what are your plans for next year?" And I said, I'm keen to play on. And I'd been sort of in and out of the side twice that year, and it had never happened before. And he just lost a little bit of faith, I think, and I was probably starting to doubt myself a little bit at my age. And I'd had quite a serious leg injury as well. My quad, I tore that in half sort of late the year before. against Port Adelaide, and that sort of played its part as well. I never got back to full strength with that, and I think that was in their minds as well. And he said, look, I just want to give you the opportunity to you to have your say as to when you want to finish up. But he said, I've got no guarantees for you for next year. I'm not sure where I'm going to play you. I was playing centre half forward actually during my last couple of years. And he said, there's this young kid called Jonathan Brown who we've just, brought to the club and we want to try him at centre half forward. And I thought, that'll never work. What are you talking about? Actually, it turned out okay. But I sort of saw the writing on the wall then there, and I thought, you know what, do I make a call now? And I did. So I literally sort of, from that tap on the shoulder and that very quick conversation, I sort of ducked over in my car in the car park and shed a few tears, I'll be completely honest with you, and thought, shit, this is it. And I went down to training, down to Cooperoo, and just trained my guts out. I just trained the hardest I ever trained. I was the loudest on the track, just sort of trying to embrace every last training session I was going to have with these guys. So, yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow. And then we still sort of finished off the last sort of 4 games that I was playing in the twos at the time. And then there was an injury to Dan Bradshaw sort of in a final, just before a final. I thought, I've been playing well in the twos because I was really embracing every last minute of this AFL career. And I thought, I'm a massive chance to actually be elevated again into the senior side. But Lee is pretty set on his ways. And when he sort of realises that you're not part of his future, and this is on a week-to-week basis, mind you, and he stands by it. His mandate is to win a footy game, or was when he was coaching, win a footy game every week. Now, if you're not part of that 22, even if you're Michael Voss or Jonathan Brown or whatever, you're not part of that 22 this week, don't talk to me. Don't want to know you. That's just how he rolls. You're not going to help me win this game this week. Don't want to know about you. So he's pretty stern with his approach to footy and winning games. And that was his approach to me, I think, towards the end of my career, saying, well, he's no good to me in the future. Maybe it's worthwhile bringing someone younger up or having a replacement there that might, be beneficial for him later on down the track. So I understood that. He had a lot of praise for the way that I sort of took the news and sort of opted out at the time, which I respected. And we're still good friends today. I actually team up for a lot of speaking gigs now that we work together when I MC something and he's a guest speaker. So, yeah, we get on well. I think we've got that mutual respect there.
Mate, you'll have to come over to Adelaide and do one of your speaking shows, you and Lee. That'd be amazing.
Hey, you know what? I haven't been to Adelaide for a speaking gig for a while, but I do remember once. So I know Cornsey was in a band for a while. I'm not sure whether Studley still is, but I got asked to, and someone straight after the singing show that I did, the It Takes Two, the reality singing show, someone thought that I was actually a fair dinkum singer, and they invited me to sing some songs at this. Actually, I think it was like a Hall of Fame dinner, SANFL Hall of Fame dinner. Oh, so have you got some backing tracks or something? I said, have you got a band that you can bring with you? No, I just do this on footy trips, guys. I do. So I've had to pull some line B grade sounding karaoke backing tracks with me to this function, whack them on in the back of the house, and try to sing a couple of songs. It was embarrassing, but you know what, Bevo, this is what I've learned through life. Whatever people dish up and say, do you want to do this? You want to do this? Hell yeah, I'm in. Like, who cares? Just have a go and have some fun. So, mate, that's how I roll with that. And I could see somebody, he was at the function sort of having a bit of a giggle to himself, thinking, we could have brought the band together and done something here. So, but that's my take on life these days, mate. Have a go, have some fun, and who cares?
It's a great motto, and I take the same kind of thing, mate, as well. I make a fool of myself all the time, so... Getting back to the footy though, mate, so you played against some of the biggest names in history. I think I remember seeing Modra stand your head a couple of times, and you played on Lockett and Dunstall, some of the biggest names of all time, Ablett, of course. Who was your toughest opponent though, and why?
Yeah, you know what? When you look back on it, and at the time you just think this is just how it is. But footy's changed so much. If you look at how many stay-at-home full forwards there are these days, there's not too many. Even Joey Danaher's now been obviously drafted to Brisbane, but he's playing up the ground a lot now. You got probably Jack Revolt for the Tigers. You've probably got who else? Oh, you've got Kennedy and Darling for West Coast, and maybe Buddy to a little extent with Sydney. But back in those days, back in the 90s, every team had a gun full forward, and that era was fantastic to play in. As a fullback, having to take on that challenge each and every week, I just loved it. One, you were. They were expected to kick 10 goals because they're that good. Two, if you kept them to 3 or 4, you're a hero. So you're in a no-lose situation, really. So, but just to embrace that challenge every week, and you rolled out a few names there, but yeah, Lockett, Ablett, Dunstall, Rocker, Modra, Longmire, Carey, Lloyd, Richardson. Every team had guns, and every week you just rolled out, right, another challenge this week, another challenge this week. To answer your questions, it's really hard to pinpoint it because, as you know, you look at the record books, they're all capable of kicking 10 goals every week, but they all had their strengths. They didn't have many weaknesses, but they had lots of strengths. Dunstall was quick off the lead, and back in those days, it was the forward 50 was open for them. Therefore, there was no flooding back with your teammates. That wasn't invented back then. So it was just you and your opponent in the forward 50. And, I remember the first time I played on Dunstall, you had Platten and Jarman just streaming down the midfield at Waverley, and Dunstall leading out, streaming out, and those guys just pinpointing it on his chest. And the same when you played on Ablett down at the Cattery, the Hocking and these guys just and Couchy spilling it down Ablett's throat, just really quick on the lead, those guys. And Lockett, you didn't want to go one-on-one with him because the guy was a mountain. I wish he was the weight he is now when he was actually playing against me. 88 kilos now, plugger. He was 12 or 15 or something when he was playing. So you had to be real strategic how you played each player.
And obviously, it's going to be interesting to see how the Lions go, the Power, my Melbourne, and the Bulldogs in Melbourne as well. It's are going on quite nicely. It's very exciting. And the Cats, and you can't write off the Tigers. So there's so many teams in it really this year.
Every year there's a team that surprises, and Melbourne have surprised everyone this year. And they were much like Richmond, I think, about 4 years ago, where they say, oh, yeah, they'll drop off, something will happen, but they didn't. And the same with the Bulldogs, a few years ago when they won, they'll falter at the last hurdle. We just used to saying that. We're used to the same olds being up there, but I'd love to see Melbourne win. Their supporters are so passionate and they're really on board at the moment. So it's good to mix it up, and it's good to have another team that's surprising people and someone to talk about. So, undefeated at the moment, the D is unbelievable. So who knows? But, a few little injuries to key players, and that can switch pretty quickly. So
exactly right.
It's a great season.
Yeah, if Port don't win it, I'm the same as you. I'd like to see the D's as well. They've waited long enough, their supporters. So we'll wait and see. It's going to be an interesting finish, that's for sure. Hey, before I let you go, mates, you're obviously doing some great stuff there with Triple M, and you're doing some presenting with Channel 7 as well. And how can people get you involved if they want to hit up Champs for MC gigs?
Yeah, look, I've got my own website, so richardchampion.com.au. You can contact me on there. Most people got my phone number these days. I'm not too hard to get hold of. So, but yeah, there's a website there, richardchampion.com.au. You can just make a booking or get in touch. All my details are on there. So, mate, look, I love meeting people, love telling stories, and I've got a gazillion of them to tell. Occasionally I'll rip out a song if I'm in the mood.
Yes.
how bad I actually am. What I'd like to do is if you pardon my French, I like to do a bit of a piss take on people that have mucked up a little bit or have had, things haven't quite gone their way, and actually change the lyrics of famous songs. And my mate Akka comes to mind, Jason Ackermanis, and the Essendon Drugs drugs saga. I've got a little sort of quirky one with that. And so I like to have a bit of fun with some things. So that quite often gets rolled out at Sporties nights.
Mate, well, we look forward to hopefully having a beer with you one day. And thanks so much for joining us, Legends of Bevo, Richard Champs champion. It was an absolute pleasure.